All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome in. Solo edition of Whiskey and Wine. Little unorthodox, admittedly. Tigers take it on the chin. They lose 50-30 in the SEC championship game. We welcome you in. We're glad to have you aboard with us here. Again, no T-Bob. I'm here at the hotel room in the Hyatt. Big Ten championship game getting started. When it looked like LSU was not going to be able to complete their rally, ducked out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium to get back here, so I could give you a little bit of whiskey and wine before Hanny fires up Eagle 98.1 Game Day Postgame Show from Big Kahuna. Our coverage from Atlanta all week long, brought to you by Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. As we say all the time, do business with someone you know. That's Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. So we appreciate Hudco. And Rev Business also bringing us our coverage from Atlanta all week here. So solo, no T-Bob. But let me start by saying of the utmost importance, congrats to my Whiskey and Wine co-host and my good friend, T-Bob. Sorry, real quick, switching accounts. Sorry. First of all, and most importantly, big, gigantic shout out to the A-Bears as they welcomed in Bobby Joseph A-Bear the fourth on Friday morning. Caitlin A-Bear, baby Bobby is healthy, and we're fired up for him. So congrats to T-Bob and Caitlin, most importantly. That's some dose of perspective on this night. So, okay, y'all know the drill here on Whiskey and Wine. I'll go for as long as I can up until Hanny starts Eagle post game, which is a little less than an hour from right at about an hour from right now. So, made sort of an executive decision at Mercedes-Benz Stadium when it looked like LSU was not going to complete the comeback, jetted out of there to get back here to do this. So, you know the drill. As always, smash the like button. I'll give you some thoughts here. We'll get to your comments as well. I'll just do a lot of, since I'm solo, I'll just do a lot of your questions, comments, whatever y'all have going on and thinking about the game. I'm sure I can assume some of it, but look at I think at its most basic level, to beat Georgia, you got to play just about a perfect game. And LSU did a lot right. Y'all know LSU outgained Georgia in this game. LSU put up 549 yards of offense to 529 for Georgia. And I get it late in the game. Georgia was sitting on a lead. LSU threw for 500 yards in this game. 502. They threw for 502. LSU did what we talked about all week, that if you're going to beat Georgia, the only way teams have been able to do it is by stretching the field, throwing the football. That's what LSU did. They put up 549 yards. They threw for 502, only ran for 47, and they put up 30 points. That's the most points Georgia has allowed all year. We got to see Nussmeier come in, and in basically a half of football, threw for damn near 300 yards. So I know a lot of questions about Nuss, which we will absolutely get to here. But let me say, if you're going to beat Georgia, you got to be just about damn near perfect. And from the blocked field goal return for a touchdown, the unlucky bounce off of Jack Besh's helmet, which nets the interception, which puts, touchdown a play later, puts Georgia up 14. Twice LSU went for it on short yardage downs, or with 3rd and 1, ran up the middle, got stuffed. 4th and 1 at the 5-yard line in the second half, you run up the middle, you get stuffed. And in that one in the second half, you're down 18. If you kick the field goal there, and I get why you go for it. I get why you go for that situation. But if you kick, you're down 15. So you're actually, in a 2-score game at that point. So the dynamics change a little bit. But you got to be just about perfect to beat that team, and LSU wasn't. And Georgia didn't have a great defensive day, in large part due to what LSU did to them. But Georgia offensively had a great day, and LSU struggled to limit that Georgia offense, which put up 529 on the day, and they were balanced. They threw it for 274. They ran it for 255. And really that second quarter, a 21-point second quarter, is what did LSU in and really what gave Georgia its breathing room when LSU took the haymakers from number one and couldn't really respond in that second quarter. And then rallied in the second half with with not a lot of pressure in that moment, but kind of how it goes. All right, we'll get to a lot of you, what you have to say. 463 watching. Love y'all so much, man. Thank you. Please smash that like button. Subscribe up to the Watch 1045 ESPN YouTube channel. I'll tell you this. It was a great day here in Atlanta. LSU in the stadium was outnumbered probably 90-10. It was by far... Look, and I was here in 01. You can hear the sirens behind me. I was here in 01 when LSU beat Tennessee, and that was probably 80-20 Tennessee. But this was pretty overwhelming. I think a lot of LSU fans sat it out, understandably, after the loss a week ago. And Georgia gobbled up a lot of those tickets. So it was a pretty overwhelming Georgia crowd. But the LSU fans that came, man, they showed up. They were loud. They had a great time. And for the couple days we were here before the game, LSU fans were way more present. Makes sense. I mean, Georgia fans, day trip from Athens or living in Atlanta can just show up for the game, a lot like when LSU plays in New Orleans. So, all right, I got a lot to talk about. We'll get to a lot of your questions. I thought really nice to see Kayshon Boutte have a big day in what's probably his last game as a Tiger. 6 catches, 107, had the long touchdown. I doubt we'll see Kayshon play in the bowl game. Maybe, but that's probably the last time you see him in the LSU uniform. Malik Neighbors had some really special catches tonight. 6 for 63. I'm sorry. 5 for 128 for Neighbors. Mason Taylor was 6 for 63. Forgive me. Neighbors 5 for 128. Great to see Boutte and Neighbors go off. We saw Jure get a couple of targets in the ball game. Kyron Lacey had a couple of big catches, 3 for 43. Jack Besh had 2 catches for 43 yards. Brian Thomas, we need to get an update on the injury if we can. I'm sure Gordy's going to join Hannegriff for Eagle postgame show. So I'm sure Gordy, who's on the field, will have we'll be able to get an update on Brian Thomas. But looked unfortunate, man. The end zone went down on that shoulder they were working on. But a lot of guys stuff in that stat sheet, man. Josh Williams, 6 carries, 55 yards, had the long of 47 when he gashed him, late in the second half. But the game is what it is, man. LSU was 4 of 13 on third down. Georgia was 7 of 13 on third down. LSU just 1 of 2 on fourth down opportunities. And Georgia ran 73 plays. LSU ran 72 plays. LSU 7.6 a play. Georgia 7.2. I mean, a lot of the stat sheet is even. I mean, it looks pretty even. The difference is, you gave them a special teams touchdown. You gave them a short field. They converted. They built on their lead, and LSU wasn't able to overcome it. So, congrats to Georgia. They're a great team, but it shows what LSU has to do. So, all right, we'll say some what's up here. Devin Johnson, Doug Ham, what's going on? Carly Woodard, Adam Michaels, Grayson Gallen, good to see y'all. Hopefully in the Citrus Bowl as a Florida native. Yeah. So I can tell y'all this, man, for LSU, Citrus Bowl is the most likely outcome. I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of conversation about South Carolina in the Citrus Bowl. Because if you're the Citrus Bowl, you want South Carolina, because South Carolina is an 8-4 team coming off back-to-back top 10 wins. They're going to be pretty jacked up and ready to travel to a big-time bowl game. Whereas for LSU, this would be a big disappointment going to the Citrus Bowl. But we've seen this happen in the past where the league will step in and say, "Look, man, the West champion or the team that played in the conference championship game, they're not going to drop any lower." So I do expect that we're going to see on Sunday LSU land in the Citrus Bowl against probably Purdue, maybe Illinois. Swamp Donkey, what's up? El Nino Brown. It won't be Citrus Bowl against Notre Dame. It'll be Citrus Bowl against a Big Ten team. So very likely Purdue, provided they lose this game to Michigan or Illinois. But potential. But like My apologies there. Malcolm K. Let's see, Matt, can we get a new special teams coach? So I think we're going to hear a lot of that about Polian. There's no way around it. He was awful this year. He was awful. There's no objective way that you could look at the job that Brian Polian did this year and say that he helped make this team better in any way. If you want positives, I think at times this year, Jay Bramblett was good. The first half of Alabama comes to mind. I think Damian Ramos, after the debacle that happened against Florida State, was pretty good this year. Had the big kick against Florida, the 47-yarder. But, man, by and large, I don't know how you look at Polian and not make a move there. Now, I'll tell you this. I think Titus Jackson fired Polian with a bunch of fire emojis. Look, Brian Polian is the first hire that Brian Kelly made. And one thing that's pretty clear is Brian Kelly assembled a staff that's made up of guys that know him really well and guys that know Louisiana really well. I don't think Brian Polian's going to be gone. I think he will have a role on this staff. I don't know how you can justify bringing him back as the special teams coordinator. He was objectively awful, from kickoffs out of bounds to poor coverage to poor, punt returns, kickoff returns, devastating plays like you saw here tonight. Special teams cost LSU field position and points in damn near every game this season. And it would be unfortunate blind loyalty if Brian Polian's back next year as special teams coordinator. There's just no, and y'all know, look, you listen to me for any length of time, I'm not fire the coach guy, but there's just no justification for bringing him back. There is no reason to think that's a good idea to bring that dude back for another year. Let's see. Trivia Carter, what's good? Adam Michaels, Zach Hansen, asking about bowl projection. Yeah, it looks like citrus. Let's see. Nuss just left the number one defense in the country. So we're talking about Haydel Collins said Nuss needs to transfer so he isn't wasted. So listen, here's the thing I'll tell you. Garrett Nussmeier was great in the second half. And I would say I think y'all probably agree with this. I think Nussmeier's best trait, he don't give a fuck, y'all. Garrett Nussmeier, just lets it hang out. And at times this year, I think that's what we wanted to see from Jaden Daniels, was to let it flow. And when we saw that at times, it was really good. When we saw Jaden against Florida, against Bama, second half against Ole Miss, when he was willing to put the ball up and let it flow, it looked good. But you didn't always see that. Now, some of y'all are saying, I see some of the comments saying Nussmeier is fearless. And that's true. He ain't scared, bro. That is undeniably true. The tough part about that is sometimes they get you in trouble. And, wait, now hold on, man. Cameron Brando said weird here, and Matt say something good about Nuss. No, fuck that, okay? And this is still whiskey and wine, so I'm gonna curse, by the way. I have never, ever just shat on anybody. I don't crap on college kids ever. My point all along has been Jaden Daniels gives you the best chance to win games. And that's true. I don't know how you can objectively, after the season they've had, look and say that you would have been better when you can look at sample size of Garrett Nussmeier throwing picks against Southern and not being good, not objectively being bad against Arkansas last year, then looking at a half of football where you're down 4 scores and you're letting it rip. Now, here's the thing, though. You go let it rip like that against number one, awesome, man. See some consistency like that? Great. I'm sure a lot of y'all are going to ask, is he going to transfer? I have no idea. I think a big part of the question comes to, is Jaden Daniels back next year? And I don't know the answer to that either. So, I've told y'all this. What I know is Jaden's mentality was always 3 years into the league, 3 years to the NFL. Had a great freshman season. COVID hits. They play 4 games in 2020. Arizona State was a dumpster fire. So after last year, he transfers out, comes here with the idea of, hey, man, I'll go do a year at LSU, play in the SEC, put on for scouts, and go pro. I think we would all agree that Daniels would benefit from another year. And I would absolutely prefer a 5th-year player. Give me a guy with that experience who's been through it before. We saw with Burrow. Burrow was average at best for most of 2018. By the time the end of the season got there, he got pretty comfortable and then went into 2019. It was awesome. I'm not saying he's going to be Burrow. Mettenberger, Hendon Hooker. I mean, you've got endless examples of dudes that, as they get more experience, they get better. I mean, imagine that. So, I think if you can get Jaden Daniels back for a 5th year, great. You 100% do it. I'll take the experience. What is that? What would that mean for Nussmeier? I have no idea. I don't know if he would stay or if he would leave. I have no idea. I'd be guessing, like all y'all would. And the other thing too is like, dude was also playing tonight on a bum ankle, clearly. And listen, I took Brian Kelly at his word. Said Jaden had a great week of practice, was ready to roll. I figured they'd tape him up, shoot him up, get him ready to roll, which they did. But he got tweaked and couldn't go. So I'll tell you this. I'd rather the approach that Brian Kelly took in saying, Jaden, look, man, you're hobbling around. You ain't right. Love you, but take a seat. As opposed to what Lincoln Riley did. Caleb Williams with the bum hamstring limping around on the field. I mean, that game changed in the Pac-12 championship game when Caleb Williams couldn't move anymore. So I'm glad we got to go see Nuss. I'm glad we got a big sample size of him. I'm glad he got that experience. Because, man, there's a probability that dude could end up being LSU starting quarterback in an SEC championship game in the future. So he would have that experience to draw from, which is beneficial. Let's see. Here's the thing. Something of half the Spanish Armada said Caleb Williams was still playing for playoff spot. Okay, USC was playing for playoff spot. But Caleb Williams was clearly detrimental to his team at that point. So I don't know how you justify putting a guy out there when clearly at 50% of his capacity, he's not your best option, which he wasn't. Let's use Super Chat. Jack Zarang, appreciate you, man. Sometimes not your night. Love to see the team keep fighting the second half down so much. If Bama gets in tomorrow, we riot. Yeah, man, look, Bama's not getting in. And so if you're watching the game on TV and like in the press box, they have at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is fire, by the way. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is gorgeous. But the press box, when you're in your seat, they have TVs like every 3 chairs or so, like where you have your own TV. And they have the game, like the TV broadcast. So we were watching the game. You have all the replays and everything in the stadium. And then you have this little TV right in front of you that's showing you the CBS broadcast. So I get, man, like when the game starts to get out of hand, the broadcast crew has to have talking points because like the game itself isn't carrying the day. So they do like the whole should Stetson Bennett be in the Heisman mix, or here's the case for Alabama. So I get why the SEC championship broadcast on CBS is doing the here's the case for Alabama thing. I get it, right? It's not an Alabama thing. It's a here's the SEC broadcast on the SEC championship making the case for the SEC team. So I get why they were doing it. The reality is the 4 teams to play for set. Bama's not getting in. I know LSU fans have a ton of anxiety because you've seen this before. Bama got a redo in 2011. They got a redo in 2017. You know, they lose to Auburn, and Auburn loses the SEC championship game, and Bama gets in, goes to the championship game, beats Georgia in overtime. I get it. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Bama plenty of times. This year, it's just done. Like this year, you've got your 4 set. It's going to be Georgia's going to be number 1. If Michigan wins here and they just scored against Purdue, Michigan's going to be number 2. TCU's going to be 3, and Ohio State's going to be number 4. So your 4 are set. They're not putting in a 2-loss Bama who didn't even play in its conference championship game over 1-loss TCU who only had the loss because they played an extra game. So, and lost in overtime. So, no, your 4 set, Bama's not getting in. I do not think you have to worry about that at all. Let's see. Impetus Tiger. Matt is talking about the wide receivers going off. Sure, because we had a quarterback throwing the ball. And you've had that at times this year. Admittedly, you've had at times this year when Daniels wouldn't stretch the field. But you were in a situation in this ball game, you're down 4 touchdowns, 3 scores, and you have to get out there and rip it, and Nuss did that. And I'll tell you, man, that's his best attribute. It's a weird double-edged sword, man, because with Nussmeier, his I don't give a fuck mentality will serve you great sometimes, and then you'll also throw like the terrible interception that he had today where he threw into double coverage and missed badly and threw a pick. In a game when you lose by 20, it doesn't matter. In a 1-score game, when you throw that interception, that matters. That's what's going to be lost in this conversation. And I get it. I know what y'all are going to do. Like the Nuss Bus people who didn't say shit when LSU was rolling and beat Florida and beat Bama and beat Ole Miss, and y'all didn't say shit. And then y'all come out of the woodworks whenever LSU loses to A&M or loses to Auburn. I get it. I mean, it's a chicken shit way to go about things, but I get it. It's when you dump on your own team. But instead of just rooting for your team to win, you're also the people that are going to highlight the good and ignore the bad, and understanding that context matters. And when you're down 20 and you throw a pick, it's not as big a deal as when you throw a pick and you're in a 1-score game that could cost you the game. So, but I get it. That's what you do in this situation. Like you ignore the bad and accentuate the good when you want it to validate your point, instead of looking at everything in total. But I mean, I'll tell you, man, I thought Nussmeier in the second half was great. He was a lot of fun. He was accurate. He was confident. He moved the offense. It was great to see. It was phenomenal to see. Nope. Now, Cajunomics said so players can never continue to improve. That's actually the complete antithesis of my point, and I've said that a million times. I said that probably to 100 people today at SC FanFest, which is, you can always improve. It's the same premise that I've said with respect to LSU's team. And that's why I think an expand like that is the same reason why I look at an expanded playoff and say, give me an expanded playoff. Because when I look at Garrett Nussmeier, of course, you can get better and improve as you get older in your career. It's the same thing we just talked about with Burrow. Burrow in 2018 went the entire month of October without throwing a touchdown pass. He wasn't that good. By the time they got to November, he hit his stride a little bit. They had a 7-overtime loss to A&M, but then the bowl game, he went boom against UCF and then carried it into 2019. Mentioned Mettenberger. Mettenberger wasn't good in 2012. Mettenberger was not a good player in 2012. By the time they got past that Bama game in November, the rest of November he played pretty well. 2013, dude was the 3,000-yard passer, was phenomenal. I mean, until he tore his ACL, was being mentioned as a possible first-round draft pick, we forget. So, yeah, of course you can improve. But the same thing with teams. Teams can improve as the season goes along. That's why I hate if you lose a game. That's why we need an expanded playoff, because you lose a game early in the season and it hinders your opportunity to win a championship. Look at LSU this year. LSU against Florida State was atrocious. They were shit for 3 quarters. And look at how much they improved from that game to the end of the season. So, yeah, of course you can improve. I got a lot of questions also today about NIL, and I'll tell you all some stuff that I know. I can tell. Look, and let's just call it what it is. I mean, we can make this a semantics conversation or whatever, but with NIL. Schools can't actively recruit players from other teams. Okay, obviously, that's not just NIL. That's in the NCAA rulebook. How does that extend to a collective, and then by extension, players can talk to other players? You know what I mean? So you're having a lot of because there's so much gray area with the NIL stuff, it's really hard to know what is within the context of the rules and what's outside of them. But I'll tell you this, I was told that LSU was able to, and again, semantics. When I say LSU, I don't mean the university. I mean collective, NIL, boosters, however you want to frame it, okay? LSU was able to fend off the savages with respect to Harold Perkins. So I believe Perkins is good. And the way that it was described to me with Campbell and Emory Jones, this is how somebody told it to me. Said, those dudes at 66 and 50, Campbell and Emory Jones, are, all caps, true Tigers. Like, those dudes had their opportunities, and they're staying put. And it's weird. I get it that it's weird to have this conversation. Because like, as a fan, you should be super pumped. You had some dynamic freshmen that that you should be able to be really excited about growing over the next 2 years before they go to the pros, right? And you have to worry, like, okay, can you actually retain this? Like, think of it this way. Like, if you're an Oklahoma fan and you got to watch Caleb Williams last year as a freshman, you should be pumped about the future with him. And a year later, he's winning a Heisman at Southern Cal, right? But that's the nature of what it is now. Mr. J. Aber said, Matt said super pumped, LOL. I say super pumped, I'm super pumped. I say that all the time, super pumped. Maybe that was a 90s thing. Super pumped. Yeah, super pumped. I'm super pumped. It's weird not having T-Bob next to me and sitting at the Scar Bar drinking. I don't feel the need to be as edgy. Maybe it's just because I don't have someone yelling at me, hitting me, cursing all the time. I can just be more thoughtful. He's pumping his shoes. You remember Reebok pumps? Those were awesome. Anyway, point is, the advantage LSU has had, will always have, in recruiting, with NIL, in this culture and era, is there are people, kids, players, studs from Louisiana that will always want to play for LSU. And that will always matter. And that's not the truth. That's not the case everywhere. But when you have dudes from Louisiana that want to put on for the purple and gold and want to represent LSU, sometimes no matter what money people throw at them, because they know their opportunity is going to come eventually. So, hell yeah, Dustin Abair. Reebok pumps was my jam. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Juan said, let's go to Vegas. Yeah, I don't think Vegas Bowl is going to happen. I think LSU is going to end up in the Citrus Bowl. Stetson Bennett Heisman. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Coming into this weekend, I mean, Caleb Williams was your betting favorite. They lost, but he still had a big day and it limped around on a bum hamstring and still threw for 300 yards in that game, which I'm sure they're super bummed at. Super pumped, super bummed. How about that? Caleb Williams threw for 363 and 3 touchdowns and a loss. They didn't lose because of him. They lost because their defense gave up 47. That's like similar to LSU tonight. I'll tell you, man, back to the LSU game. If you had told me that LSU scored 30 in this game, I'd have told you, man, you're in a one-score game in the fourth quarter. But you let it get away in the second quarter, which is super disappointing. I mean, super disappointing. Maybe I'm sure I do that a lot. I mean, the first play of the second quarter, was the touchdown pass after the interception, and you were down 21-7. And that, look, you open the game. By the way, Brian Kelly elected to receive again. I don't get it, but whatever. You elect to receive. You have a 3rd and 5. It looked like there might have been PI on the throw on Kayshawn. They didn't call it, so you punt. You hold them 3 and out. You hold them 3 and out. They punt, 56. Dude booms a 56-yarder. And Greg Clayton doesn't fair catch it, and the Georgia guy waylays him. Probably could have been. Brian Kelly was pissed that he didn't get a flag at that moment. But then you get the ball at your own 17, and boom, boom, man, you're going down the field, and you're putting together a hell of a drive, man. You put together a 14-play, 69-yard drive. You get up 7:19 on the clock. I mean, boom, boom, boom. I mean, they're going right down the field. You get a 1st and goal at the 7. Jaden runs for 2 yards. Incomplete in the end zone to Kayshawn. It's when they threw him the fade route. Then on 3rd and 5, you get sacked. You line up for the field goal, and you get it blocked. Now, I'm going to tell you all this because I know we talked about the blocked field goal, but I got to say this. Hold on. Before I go any further. How in the holy hell are there 22 people on the field that don't know the fucking rule? Not only that, dude, CBS kept showing Monken in the booth going, no, don't touch, get it. Like he's yelling, get away from it. Like, how does nobody know this rule? That is a live football for the Georgia team. If any LSU play, for those that don't know, any LSU player has to do is just touch the ball. Do you remember the fumble? Of course you fucking do. The Bama game, the fumble on the sideline where dude's half laying out of bounds as soon as he touched the ball, dead ball, right? The second any LSU player just touches the ball, just touch it, dead ball, play over. But for the 11 dudes on Georgia's team, that's a live ball. They can pick it up and advance it. Most teams don't because you don't want to go touch it and then create a muff fumble scenario where as soon as you touch it, the other team can hit you and try to recover. So that's why typically you get away from the ball and you need someone to come down it. Well, LSU didn't go down the fucking ball. The guy from Georgia's just standing there waiting. Nobody comes near him. No whistle, picks it up and runs it 95 fucking yards. The fact that you do not know the basic rules of the game at the major college level in a conference championship game, and not one dude, not one fucking guy on the team, not one guy, not one of the 11 wearing white shirts, not fucking one, knew to go touch that fucking football and down it is absolutely fucking stunning. Like, it is stunning to me in that game, on that stage, in that scenario, because if LSU makes that field goal, then Georgia goes and scores, and they get the long touchdown or you get the Kayshawn return, then they score an answer. It should have been 10-7 LSU. It should have been 10-7 LSU. Instead, it's 14-7 Georgia. Like, you've got to be so good, so precise, so on against a team that good. You got to have your best fucking day, man. That, like, the more I think about that, man, how in the world did the 11 dudes wearing white shirts not know to go touch that fucking football? Like, holy moly. That is stunning. It is really, really, really stunning to see that transpire the way it did. It was, on the broadcast, they showed that as the play of the game. And man, you really wonder, man. You really wonder if LSU gets points right there. If LSU gets 3. Disappointing. I mean, look, we talked about it a lot this week. Hey, look, somebody said, yeah, nice learning experience. Fuck that. You learn that shit when you're in 5th grade. Like, you don't learn the rules of the game and the SEC championship. Anyway. All right, I'm going to move on. But yes, a day where you had to be perfect. I tweeted this. after Keyshawn's touchdown, the total yardage was 160 to 6 LSU. And you were in a 7-7 ball game. Because you went the length of the field and you had the block for a touchdown, then you went, 3 plays. Jaden scramble, the screen to Josh Williams, and then the Keyshawn touchdown, 53 yards. I mean, you were up a total yards 160 to 6, and you're in a tie ball game. Do me a favor, please smash out over 1,000 watching, man. Love you. 1111, as a matter of fact. Only 226 on the likes. Please do us a favor, smash that like button. I'll remind you, if you are watching us live, thank you. Eagle 98.1 Game Day post-game show, Hanny and Gordy Rush from Big Kahuna, downtown Atlanta. I'm sitting in my room in the Hyatt, if you're just jumping aboard. Thanks. So when the game was basically over, I jetted back here to make sure I could get here to do this. And then hand it over to Hanny for Eagle 98.1 Game Day postgame. So y'all can check that out. If you're back in Baton Rouge on 98.1 FM, you can, right here on this YouTube channel as you're watching, you'll be able to watch Hanny and Gordy from Big Kahuna. So thanks so much for being here. Let's see, Byron Joe David, super chat, thank you. Said, I'm sure the secondary and Nuss will be better next year. The offensive line as well. I question the halfback draw call on 4th and goal. Okay, I want to talk about the call. Let me talk about the first two. Secondary is a big question. Because keep in mind, Jark Bernard Converse, Mekhi Garner, Colby Richardson, Joe Fouché, all super seniors. You lose all of them this year. Seven Banks could return in May. And I think it's fair to say Sage Ryan has struggled. He gave up the touchdown on the flat route to Brock Bowers. The second touchdown that Georgia scored, that was a 3rd and goal situation where it looked like he might come up with a third down with a goal line stop. But anyway, Sage Ryan has struggled, and you're probably losing Jay Ward to the draft as well. So you were going to have to remake your secondary again, or hope some of those young guys develop. But you're going to have to hit the portal again to add some depth at corner. Losing both Elias Ricks and Dwight McGlothern last year really hurt you because it forced you into the portal to get veteran guys to have some veteran presence, and you didn't really get young guys on the field this year. Demarius Miguel, Radarius Jones did not play this season, and the 2 freshmen, LaTerrence Welch and Jordan Allen, redshirted. So you either hope one of those young guys or a couple of those young guys really develop. You bring in maybe a 5-star freshman who can play right away like Ricks did or Stingley did. But really, you're going to have to go hit the portal again in the secondary. As far as the offensive line, you're going to return all 5 starters on the offensive line. I will tell you, I believe one of their big targets in the portal is a transfer center who's already announced he's going to enter the portal. You could probably go search and narrow it down. I'm not going to tell you who, but I think that is going to be a place where they look. And you could look at ties to this staff, and it would make a lot of sense. The halfback draw call on 4th and goal. 2 things about that. Number one, if you kick the field goal, I get why you go for it, but if you kick the field goal there, it becomes a 2-score game. You're down 18, so that's 3 scores. Kick the field goal, you're down 15, it's 2 scores. So there's an argument to be made for getting points there, making the 2-score game. I loathe the shotgun handoff call on 4th and short. If you want to go to the shotgun and run some type of misdirection, you feel like you had a great play, cool. But to out of the shotgun, running up the middle, basically taking yourself 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage doesn't make sense. Drew Brees made a living on this throughout his career, where he would go right up to the line, you would quick snap, and look, if you're the quarterback, you're under the center, and you can see, based on where the defensive line is, where the gap is. And all you have to do is, because you know the count, they don't. Quick snap it and fall into one of the gaps. And then it's legal now to have a push behind you. So fall into one of the gaps. Have your running back push you forward. You need 3 feet or less. So, yes, I hated the call. They did it twice tonight against a really good defensive front. I agree with you. I hated it. I think everybody hated it. Doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Murder Giraffe, what's good? LA Boy, what's up? Dustin A. Bear, Cortland Jacob, appreciate y'all. Carly Woodard, why didn't we defer? You know what, y'all? I'm looking at my notes. Let's see. This was the... Let's see. LSU deferred against New Mexico. LSU deferred against Auburn. I'm looking at my notepad. Y'all laugh at me for having these fucking notes, but it comes in handy. They won the toss against Tennessee and elected to receive. They deferred against Florida. Ole Miss won the toss and elected to receive. Bama won the toss and deferred. Arkansas won the toss and deferred. UAB won the toss and deferred. A&M won the toss and deferred. And LSU won the toss against Georgia and elected to receive. So the last time LSU won the toss, elected to receive was against Tennessee, and they did it again tonight against Georgia. So I don't get it. It's the whole point of deferring is you want to go back to back. You want to get the ball to end the first half and to start the second half and have a chance to score back to back. And if you're Brian Kelly and you win the toss and you elect to receive, you're thinking, all right, I want to go score and get up on it. It's the same thing they did against Tennessee, and they, of course, muffed the opening kickoff. But I don't get it. I'm with you. I don't get it. We've asked Brian Kelly about that before. He hasn't been consistent in the way they've done it. I mean, against Tennessee, he said afterwards that he wanted to have an opportunity to be aggressive and go play with the lead, but to do that, you got to score. And against Georgia's defense, that's really tough to do. So I did not like the decision. Let's see, Ryan Dixon, what happened to House? Seems like his defense fell apart the last 2 weeks. So last week against Mississippi State, and had a long conversation with Hester about this, and Hester watches a lot of film, so I would trust him on it. LSU over-pursued a ton, and that's really disappointing. They just didn't play well. They over-pursued and didn't want to tackle A-Chain. Tonight, look, man, Georgia's the best team in the country. LSU's outmanned. I don't know what else to say, man. Like, I get it. I get why you're bummed, why everybody's bummed. I mean, I could look at a Georgia team averaging 40 points a game. They scored 50 tonight, but 7 came on special teams, and 7 came after you gave them a short field after a turnover, a 22-yarder. So you can't. They did what they've done mostly this year. I mean, but you were able to put up 30 when Tennessee's offense couldn't breathe against them. And I'm gonna be real with y'all, bro. This was not a game. This was not a neutral site game. I was in that building tonight. Like, that was a home crowd for Georgia. It was not. I mean, it was 90-10. I mean, it was like playing in Athens, man. There was no split crowd. I mean, there was no advantage in the crowd whatsoever for LSU. Alan Black, $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I'm not smashed, but the like button is. Go Tigers. Thank you, man. Bill Free, officials were terrible tonight. Many missed holding calls, PIs. The targeting call is bad. I'm sorry, not Free. Bill Frey. So, Bill, here's the thing, man. I'm not super into criticizing officials or blaming officials for the way that a game transpires. But here's what I will say where I agree with you. Here's the best example I can give. They called a personal foul against Micah Baskerville for hitting Stetson Bennett in the face. And he did. He did. He 100% absolutely did. Hit Stetson Bennett in the face. It was a glancing blow, and you probably could have just let it slide. They didn't. They called it. Okay, you want to call a tight game? Cool. Call a tight game. But there were no less than 4 plays in the first half alone where I could have said that's, by the letter of the law, pass interference. And they didn't throw a flag. And look, there was a play against Georgia. And there was a play in the second half where Jay Ward in the third quarter got there early, was shoving with the receiver. They didn't throw the flag. My point is basically, look, man, I'm okay if you want to call a tight game, cool, call a tight game. If you want to be loose and let them play, cool, be loose, let them play. I just want you to be consistent, and I don't think this officiating crew was tonight. Now, that's not why LSU lost the game. LSU was careless. They really took a haymaker in the second quarter and didn't respond. They took a haymaker in the second quarter and didn't respond. And that's disappointing. But sorry. I realized I hadn't posted this yet on Facebook, so I'm doing it real quick. Talk amongst yourselves real quick. UGA 50 LSU, not 50M, UGA 50 LSU 30. All right, my apologies, y'all. Boom. Boom. Okay. All right, my apologies, y'all. I know we're rolling. I just wanted to post that real quick on Facebook. I realized I hadn't done it yet. So those were YouTube only tonight. So if you're look, 383 likes, over 1,100 watching, we appreciate y'all. Please just take a quick second, smash the like button. We do appreciate y'all for being here, man. I know I speak on behalf of T-Bob and our friends at Don Juan who've hosted us all year and hosted us the last 3 years. Been a great year for Whiskey and Wine, and just very, very grateful to everybody who's watched. So many of you we've gotten to meet who've come out to Don Juan. A lot of people said, "Hey, what's up today?" You know, around Fan Fest and around the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, so cool, really cool to see y'all. Appreciate y'all for being here. So, let's see. ATX with a super chat, appreciate you. Trying to get to some of the questions here. Bilbo, what's good, man? By the way, shout out to Bilbo, whose wife gave birth. I know we talked about this a couple times, that they were expecting a beautiful baby girl, and everybody's healthy, which is awesome. So congrats. Said Georgia's just better. That's true. And that's why they were a 17.5 point favorite. I don't think anybody would argue to the contrary. And I guess here's the thing. If you go out there and you play clean, you feel like you played your best, you got beat by a better team, you can live with that. Like, you can live with someone being better and making plays. The thing that's tough to swallow is when you just do things that make it even more difficult on yourself. Of course, we're going to talk about the blocked field goal. Not only the blocked field goal cost you 3 points, but not knowing the rule and letting that flip into points for Georgia is devastating. The interception off of Jack Besh's helmet is a fluke. I mean, that's a fluky play where 99 times out of 100, the pass is broken up and it hits the ground. Instead of the ground, it hits Besh's helmet. Georgia dude tips it up. They intercept it. One play later, they score. We could even talk about the short yardage plays where LSU got stuffed. And yes, you 100% tip your cap to Georgia because they're awesome. They're better than LSU, and they made those plays. So, like, congrats, dude. Like, you were better. You made those plays. But in those situations, when it's short yardage, it's advantage offense always because you know the snap count. And it was just a terrible managing of those circumstances. So, I mean, I can live with in the second quarter, they throw that pop pass to Bowers. They went back-to-back plays to Brock Bowers. I'm sorry, it was at the end of the first quarter. 15 yards, then 32. So after Keyshawn's touchdown, they threw an 11-yard pass, then they went Bowers for 15, Bowers for 32. Boom, boom. Then you had the personal foul on, by the way, I got to talk about this. The personal foul on Jay Ward for the block below the waist. Anyway, and then they get in the end zone on Bowers. Like, I can live with that because Bowers is a freak. Bowers is a freak. They schemed up plays. They got him open, and he caught the ball and rumbled down the field, which is, dude, in the NFL defenses have trouble managing guys like Kelsey and Kittle. And I get it, man. Tip your cap to Brock Bowers. But there were too many instances where LSU could have controlled things to make it a closer game, a tighter game. They didn't. The block below the waist on Jay Ward is so fucked up. Like, if you saw the play, so after the Keyshawn's touchdown, you make it 7-7. They go boom, boom, Bowers are right down the field. Then they're running a play in the left flat, and the giant tight end is going to go crush Jay Ward. He's pulling around left end. He's going to crush Jay Ward. And Jay Ward's given up 100 pounds, this fucking guy. And so Ward, instead of just standing there and letting this giant polar bear just obliterate him, lowers his shoulder and takes him at the waist and gets him off his feet. Well, they throw a flag for illegal block below the waist. First of all, if you're a defender, you're not blocking anybody. Defenders don't block people. Defenders are trying to fucking tackle guys. You're a defender. You're on defense, you're trying to tackle somebody. You're not blocking anybody below the waist. He was a smaller man trying not to get completely obliterated by a much larger man in that situation. The fact that that's a penalty on Jay Ward, not that it mattered in the grand context of the game, the fact that that was a penalty on Jay Ward is fucking bonkers. Is batshit crazy. Anyway. Byron, Super Chat, special teams have been a disaster this season as well. Yes, they have. For those that just joined us, it's kind of where we started. I know a lot of people have we talked about sort of Nussmeier and then Poling, which I think are probably the two most common conversations that we're going to have, not only today, but moving forward. A lot of people are asking about the bowl game as well, which we'll get to. But yes. Hannah Griff and I were sitting next to each other in the press box, and he asked me, say, can you name one play outside of the Damian Ramos field goal against Florida, which was a 47-yarder in a pretty clutch moment, which I think gave LSU a 2-score lead, late in the game. He said, can you name any game-changing, impactful special teams play? I said, but the only thing I can really think of was in the first half against Bama. I thought Bramblett was really good, and LSU won the field position battle because Bramblett kept pinning them. Here was Bama's starting field positions. Own 20, their own 9 after a 58-yard punt, their own 11. Their own 10. Their own 25 after kick. Their own 19 after a punt. Point is, Bramblett in the first half against Bama was really good. Really controlled field position. But aside from that, I can't think of a positively impactful play on special teams all year, which is kind of stunning and very telling as well. LSU special teams were atrocious all year. And the fact that it cost you points in this game, at minimum, it cost you a 10-point swing where you had a field goal block and then it was returned for a touchdown. That's a 10-point swing. And in a game that finished 50-30, a 10-point swing, makes it a 10-point game and maybe a completely different complexion in the second half. Maybe the whole first half is a different complexion if you're in a tighter ball game. But anyway. Kyle Vaughn, lots of frustrating mistakes today. Scoring 30, racking up 549 on that defense is encouraging. Big picture, we beat Bama, made the SEC championship game in a rebuilding year, bright future ahead. Yeah, Kyle, and I appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you for the comments and the context. And listen, that's true, and it's something I know we've talked about a lot this week after the A&M loss, which are the sort of coexisting realities that you can be disappointed, and you should be, because when LSU started winning, the target changed, right? I mean, but think of it this way. Let's take LSU out of it for a second. This would be maybe hard to do, but think of it this way for a second. Look at TCU. All right. TCU fired their legendary coach mid-year last season. They hire Sonny Dykes. TCU's projected win total, I think this year was 7. They go undefeated. Had a lot of nail biters, but navigated an undefeated schedule. And they go today and they lose in overtime to K-State. If you're a TCU fan, you're pumped about the season and the future and the guy you got, obviously all that stuff. But the coexisting reality is also, man, you're devastated. You had a chance to win the Big Ten, and you blew it. And now your playoff question is a little in limbo. And maybe they make the playoff and get blown out. That could happen. I mean, maybe it will, quite honestly. If they go into the playoff, TCU does against maybe Michigan, and they get run. Do TCU fans look back in hindsight and go, man, terrible year because of the way it ended? I think both things can be true. You can be disappointed about the immediacy of the result based on the changing expectations, but also appreciate the growth and what that's going to mean for the future of your program. I think that's a similar spot to where LSU is right now. Look, Jacob Reed, LSU's had 41 total punt return yards on the season. Look, when they had the muff issues early, the decision became just fair catch. Put someone back. I mean, they had Neighbors back there, and after Neighbors, they put Besh back there, and then it was, hey, look, just put Clayton back there and catch the ball. Just fair catch it. So that's what it's been. Even Clayton today, the first one, he got blown up because he didn't fair catch it. Thank God he held on to it. But anyway. All right, a couple more. I know Hanny's coming on in about 10 minutes from right now. So, and I got to pack up my stuff because we're catching an early flight tomorrow out of Atlanta to get home. So, appreciate y'all again so much. Over 1,100 people watching. Much respect and love. Thank you. We're at 457 on the likes. I know we can get that to grow a little bit. So, thank you. Please take a quick second, smash that like button. Thank you to everybody for the super chats as well. Very cool of all of you. Again, shout out Hudco Roofing. Hudco has been the title sponsor of all of our coverage here from Atlanta all weekend long. Roof repairs, roof replacements. You all know that I'm a partner in Hudco. My guys, Richard Tilley, Ryan Terrio, Jeff Hudson, John Michael Garcia, just great people, man. I'm pumped. Hudco's a Louisiana company. It's serviced the entire state of Louisiana. So if you need a roof repair, roof replacement, commercial or residential, we'd love to help you out with a free, no-obligation roofing inspection. You go to hudcoroofing.com. It's pinned right there in the chat, hudcoroofing.com. Or you can always give us a buzz at 225-364-1007, 364-1007, 364-1007, Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com. Let's see. Got to ask Handy about the Nuss Bus. Yeah, man, so Handy's coming up. I'm sure they'll talk about it. Let's see. Doodle-doo. Go Tigers, JD5 haters are the typical nega Tiger. I'll put it to you this way. I would just say that if you're going to criticize the negative play, which, fine, you've also got to be able to appreciate the positives. You can't ignore the good and only accentuate the bad. Because over the course of 12, now 13 games, you're going to have both. And Jaden Daniels coming to LSU, new coaching staff, new teammates, all that sort of stuff, he accounted for 65% of your offense this year. And in the beginning of the year, when your offensive line was a sieve and you went through 6 line combinations in 8 games, his ability to run is and was the best offense you had at the beginning of the season. You've got to acknowledge that you are nowhere near where you are in this season without him being who and what he is. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Of course. None of these guys should feel like they're a finished product. But you've also got to be able to acknowledge Jaden Daniels was your best offensive player this year. And it's not particularly close. And if all you do is focus on and accentuate the negative, then you're missing the overwhelming majority of the season, which was a positive, and the reason why you were 9-3, won the SEC West, beat Bama, won at Florida, won at Auburn. And you could point out the rushing stats against Auburn, or the passing stats against Auburn, which is fair. But the other part of that, too, is Jaden Daniels' feet late in the second quarter is why you got back into the ball game. And then you ran the ball in the second half. So, I mean, those things can't be ignored. Shit. Here you go. Oh yeah. Oh shit. The first opening kickoff of Auburn's when Sevyn Banks got hurt. I forgot about that. I mean, you were down 14-0, 17-0. Ojulari got the strip sack. Ward scoop score touchdown. It's 17-7. You get the stop. LSU's drive. This was LSU's drive against Auburn before the half. Jaden Daniels for 3 yards. Josh Williams loses 3. 3rd and 10. Incomplete, but you had defensive hands to the face, so you got a first down. Incomplete. Daniels runs for 12 yards. They threw it away. Emory for 4 yards. 3rd and 6. Jaden runs for 6. Gets you the first down. Incomplete. Emory rips off a 39-yarder. 1st and goal. Emory, then Daniels ran for the touchdown. Like, Daniels' legs got you back into that ballgame. So, anyway, my point is, to simplify it, if you're going to criticize, you've got to compliment the good as well. And there's way more good than bad. Of course there's room for growth. But please understand, this was a year where you had 2 freshman offensive linemen. You didn't establish your center until the second game of the season. He got blown up tonight, by the way. I will tell you definitively, there is a center LSU will be targeting who is going to enter the transfer portal on Monday. From a school that has ties to the staff, which will become obvious if you really want to go search for it. So, man, they worked a lot of magic this year to get to 9 wins. When your Vegas win total was 6.5, you get to 9, you win the West. You put up 500 yards and 30 points on Georgia. I get you're disappointed with the loss tonight, and it's magnified because of the loss last week in College Station. And I'm not saying, hey, be grateful for what you have, because I'm not gonna tell you that, because the success raised the level of expectation. I will never, ever, ever, ever be the guy who says lower the bar. You are LSU, goddammit. You've won 3 national titles since 2003. You've played for a 4th. You won 1 in 2019 with the greatest team ever. You have unlimited resources, a talent-rich stadium. The expectation should be to fucking win every year. I'm never, ever, ever going to bullshit you. I'm never going to tell you lower that bar, ever. So I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and say, be great. There are starving kids in China, so eat all your peas. I'm not going to be that dude in a football context. I'm telling you, yes, keep those expectations sky high, but pull back, take the 10,000-foot view, and realize, man, this thing, they're on their way. They're on their way. All right. Todd Harris, secondary was a real problem tonight. Have to rebuild that unit. Todd, I don't. So, first of all, yes, they are going to have to rebuild that unit. I also don't know that that was the whole problem. For example, McConkey from Georgia had 5 catches for 69, and then Rosemead-Jackson had 3 for 47. Blaylock had 2 for 23. It wasn't their receivers that were hurting you. It was Bowers, who had 6 for 81. Even Washington only had 1 catch, but it was the 14-yard touchdown in the second quarter. McIntosh had 2 catches. Smith had a catch. Milton had a catch for -1 yard. They only threw for 274. It wasn't a dynamic day through the air. I don't think that was the problem. I think Georgia is really good at exposing mismatches with their tight ends, but they ran it today 44 times for 255. It was very similar to a week ago. They ran it 44 and threw it 23. They really grinded out their rushing attack. They averaged nearly 6 yards a carry. That's your problem. But I'm going to tell you, this is how you fix it in very short order, quite honestly. Next year, you're getting Mason Smith back. Put Mason Smith in the middle of that defense, good fucking luck running with that monster in the middle. And oh, by the way, you've also got Mekhi Wingo coming back. I'm going to tell you, as big a recruit as LSU has coming back, re-recruiting the roster, those Jaquelin Roy, Jacoby, and Guillory, both are draft eligible. If both those dudes come back, if Roy and Guillory both come back, you're getting Mason Smith off injury, and you've got Mekhi Wingo. Those 4 as a rotation on the interior, plus the dudes you recruited in this class recently, Langston, Fitzgerald West, TyG Hill, and then the guys you're going to bring in. Now all of a sudden you got depth, talent, and depth to form a rotation on the interior. You will fix your defensive line. You will fix the issues in the run game from teams that are just going to try to line up and run you over. The problem they have right now is, Travis Wilburn said Wiggins, but Wiggins is going to play that big end spot that Ali Gay's playing. And look, in 35, Savion Jones played a lot this year, is really good. But Wiggins is going to play on the outside. I'm sorry about interior, but yes, Quincy Wiggins is going to be great. Had the foot injury. They redshirted him. Absolutely. You're losing Ali Gay. You're going to lose B.J. Ojolari. But, man, you are going to return a ton of depth and talent and skill on the line. Like, you will be fixed next year just by health and a natural year of growth. So that's how you fix that. And by the way, also something that's sort of been overlooked. We're about to go here in just a couple minutes. They were very measured in how they got West Weeks and Colby Fields and guys like that experience. So you're going to have Harold Perkins back. You're going to have Greg Penn back next year. Of course, Baskerville is off to the league. But man, when you look at Penn and Perkins and Fields and Weeks and then the class of linebackers you're bringing in, I'll tell you this: they're in the portal. They're going to find an edge rusher in the portal. They got to go hit secondary in the portal. They're going to look for a game-breaking wide receiver in the portal, a deep threat. We'll see what happens with Jaden. I know a lot of y'all don't like this conversation, but the reality is, like Drew Pine, the Notre Dame quarterback, just went in the portal. If Jaden goes pro, there's a really good chance LSU is going to bring in a transfer quarterback. I mean, as good as Nussmeier played tonight, you're going to want depth and experience at that position to come compete. So, Brian Kelly brought in Jack Cohn his last year at Notre Dame from Wisconsin. This year he brought in Jaden Daniels. Like, you're seeing a trend. There's no reason not to do that. No, y'all don't want to have. We don't have to talk about that. Don't have to go too deep in there, but that's going to be part of it as well. But there's a lot of reason to look ahead, so we'll see what they do. Okay, last thing, real quick, last thing on the bowl game for those that missed it earlier. I believe on Sunday we're going to find out LSU is going to the Citrus Bowl. I will tell you that I believe the Citrus Bowl, their committee conversations this week, they're pretty torn. I think they want what's best for their game, and what's best for their game is probably we missed a field goal. What's best for their game is probably South Carolina, because an 8-4 South Carolina team that just came off 2 top 10 wins is going to be fired the fuck up and want to go to that game and be fired up to be there. LSU fans aren't going to be fired up to go to play Purdue in Orlando when they're going to be right back there to start the season next year against Florida State, which, by the way, is probably going to be a top 10 matchup preseason. And Travis saying, who will LSU play? go to the Citrus Bowl, you're going to play Purdue or Illinois. It's basically LSU, South Carolina from the SEC, Purdue, Illinois from the Big Ten. And it's very likely going to be, provided if Purdue loses this game to Michigan. Now, if Purdue wins this game, they're going to the Rose Bowl as the Big Ten champion. And then you play Illinois. But Purdue or Illinois against if Michigan wins this game, it's very likely LSU, Purdue in the Citrus Bowl is what you'll see. Okay, I got to go. My apologies for everybody I missed. We appreciate y'all so much. Again, on the way out, please smash that like button. Hannah Griff's coming up with Eagle 98.1 Game Day Postgame Show. If you're back in Baton Rouge, Eagle 98.1 FM. How you're watching right now, get ready because the stream is going to restart in just a few minutes with Hanny and Gordy from the Big Kahuna in downtown Atlanta. So appreciate y'all so much for watching. Again, big shout out to T-Bob and Caitlin Abear. Mostly to Caitlin, though, because she did the hard work. And great to see baby Bobby Joseph Abear the 4th, born on Friday. Fired up for all the Abears, man. Y'all send T-Bob and the fam some love. Okay, y'all have a great day, a great night. A tough one for the Tigers. Go Tigers. Been a great year all season. We love y'all. And we're very grateful. Again, thanks so much to HUDCO for sponsoring our coverage all week long here in Atlanta. Y'all have a great night. Eagle 98.1 Game Day with Hanny coming up. Peace. See y'all.